Again, on the case of the people of the state of Michigan versus Zachary Duran.
Good afternoon again, Your Honor. Raymond Cook for the people.
All right, and we are ready to proceed.
People are ready, Your Honor.
Alex Warren, agree on that. Mr. Duran, Your Honor, the defense is ready to proceed at this time.
All right, very good. You may call your first one.
Thank you, Your Honor. People would call John Duran, and just for the record, I had a brief conversation with defense counsel. It's my understanding he's willing to stipulate to some People's Exhibit 2 that people will intend to admit. So I move to admit that now and certainly will provide testimony for that later on.
And Your Honor, for exam purposes, we would stipulate what the people have pre-marked People's 2. These are text messages.
Okay. Exhibit 2.
Correct.
I will admit Exhibit 2, although it's been marked, and I'll admit that once it comes forward. Sir, please come forward to be sworn.
We take a seat, raise your right hand. You solemnly swear to affirm the testimony about giving the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Have a seat. State and spell your first and last name for the record.
My name is John Duran Jr. Spelling on the last name is D-O-R-A-N.
And it's pronounced Doran.
Duran.
Okay, very good. You may inquire.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir. How are you doing?
Okay.
Sir, where do you live?
I live at 13063 Saline Mountain Road, Mountain, Michigan, 36160.
All right, here's where this hearing quietly becomes powerful. We're not just hearing a story, we're building the foundation for a felony case. Surveillance footage plus 911 call plus real-time observations equals strong evidence structure. And notice how the prosecutor slows everything down to lock in details. That's intentional. Question for you watching. If you saw someone entering your house on camera and it was your own child, do you call 911 or handle it yourself?
Camera system. What sort of camera system do you have?
It's a Blink wireless.
Can you describe to the court what that is?
It's basically a camera system that has indoor outdoor cameras that have a box that has ability to communicate with the cameras as well as my phone to alert me to any presence of motion.
Who has access, or I'll phrase it this way, do those cameras record or do they just live stream?
Both.
Who has access to the recordings of those cameras?
I do.
Does anyone else have access?
No.
I believe you said that you would watch the cameras, you got a notification. What happened, or what was that notification?
Notification there was movement in my entrance.
Were you able to see what caused that movement?
Yes.
What caused the movement?
I noticed when I looked at it, it appeared my son was in the house and he was coming through the door and then going into my home.
You said you saw your son. Do you see your son in the courtroom today?
He is.
Can you please point to him and identify him by an article of clothing that he's wearing?
Yes, he's wearing a blue and white striped button-down collar shirt.
The record may reflect this witness has identified the defendant.
No objection, Your Honor.
Record shows so reflect.
Thank you. How did your son enter the house?
At this point, I'm not clear. He has had keys to my home. At one time, he lived with me and he's had access to my property. He still has belongings in my home that are there that he's either refused to remove or has neglected to remove.
Does anyone else commonly come into your house? Do you live with anyone else?
I don't live with anyone. I have my dogs in my home and my girlfriend will attend to my dogs on occasion when no one else is ever present.
Did you give your son permission to get into your house on September 6th?
No, I did not.
What did you see your son do at your house that day?
Well, what I can see from what was on the cameras was he entered the home and he was going through the end of my house where I have my waiting room, I have a spare bedroom, and he was going into the house to hook up a cable or a chain to a box that I had there.
When you left your house last, was the house locked, unlocked?
It's always locked. I worked in a prison way too long to leave my doors unlocked.
What was going on with the chain and the lockbox?
The lockbox was something that I had just property, and they were firearms, and they were I had them because he was having problems and issues, and I secured them in my home to keep him from them. And I told him he would get them back when we had a conversation about that.
What about the lockbox itself? Who owned that lockbox?
I did.
How much was that lockbox worth? Do you know?
Well, I bought it from an auction at Washington Community College. It came from their police academy, and I paid to have new locks installed on their high security locks that either have to be a special locksmith to obtain. I paid for the locks for it, and I was going to secure my ammo and my stuff in it. But because I needed space for his things, that's what I used it for.
How much did it cost to get that new lock system on it?
Locks were about 100.
Pause. This detail matters a lot. A 6-foot heavy lockbox dragged out with a chain. That's the moment prosecutors start thinking intent and force, which are huge concepts in home invasion cases. Also, this is why the prosecution keeps drilling size, weight, and ownership. They're painting a picture for the judge without saying the conclusion out loud. Be honest, at this point, does this feel like someone retrieving property or something more aggressive?
Box, it doesn't stand upright, it's not vertical. So it was in the very far corner of that entranceway.
And when you say a box, how big of a box are we talking here?
6 foot tall, 3.5 foot wide, almost 3 feet deep. Very heavy. It's made out of, it's a box that they use at the police academy at Washington Community College to store ammo and firearms and stuff in.
Was the defendant successful in removing that box from your home?
Yes, he was.
And did that happen that same day that he was able to successfully remove it from the home, or was it a different day that he removed it from the home?
That was the day in question. That was when I actually called and spoke to him on the phone while I was going on in real time as well as recording. What are you doing in there? Get out of my house. You don't belong there. Leave now. And he refused. He was on a rant, and I asked him numerous times and he refused, and I called 911.
Aside from taking this lockbox, what else did the defendant do in your home?
Well, when I got there after I got out of work, I seen that my gym was basically, I have a home gym, and it was just in a disarray. The biggest problem that was there was I had mirrors all the way around it, and over half the mirrors were smashed into pieces. Their stuff was flipped all over into the middle of the room. I was missing a motorcycle and parts that was in the spare bedroom there. It was a project quite that I had.
I want to make sure I heard you. Did you say a motorcycle and parts or motorcycle parts?
It was a motorcycle that was in pieces. It was in a state of going back together to repair.
Gotcha. You said that you saw broken mirrors and some other damage. Were you able to observe what caused that damage?
As far as the mirrors go, no, I didn't see exactly because it was around the corner from the view of the camera, just slightly out of the line of the camera. The one thing that I did see that was damaged was one of the cameras, or a couple of the cameras themselves. I pushed a button to sound the alarm system on one of the cameras. He looked up at it and he shouted some sort of obscenities or whatnot, threw something at it, pulled the sync modules from the blink system, threw them across the room, and then my system went completely out.
How much were those cameras? How much did they cost to install?
I really don't know. I bought some of that stuff on Marketplace. I might have paid $50, $75 for a couple sets. Some people get tired of them, and I've integrated into my system. So that's.
What was the total, or I'll phrase it this way. Can you provide the court with a list of what all was damaged in the house?
I could. I don't have it this time. I mean, if somebody wanted me to go sit down and itemize and say I had 3 mirrors that were this, these 2 cameras was that, the sync module was this, and the motorcycle. Again, and all those things would be, I guess, subjective. You know.
Did you incur any expenses as a result of this incident?
I did some, yeah. I had to replace the front door. It was a old wooden door anyways that had a big glass window in it, so I wound up getting a steel door and a small window in to prevent such a occurrence again. So I put
Excuse me one moment. Excuse me one moment. Oh, my apologies.
I believe I asked you if you could provide the court with a list or what all was damaged, and you were answering that question. If you want to continue your answer.
Yeah, like I said, if I went through and listed the things, just off the top of my head, I don't know, maybe around $1,000.
Of things that were destroyed.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I have two mirrors. If I had to pay retail value for those mirrors, I wouldn't even begin to tell you what would have to replace those. But I bought them used off the marketplace and got huge mirrors, paid next to nothing for them, and it took my time and labor and effort to install them. They were of more value than what I had into them.
What is the retail value of those mirrors?
The retail value,
Yeah.
I don't know, if I paid a glass company to come and install those mirrors in my home, it probably cost me $1,500, just the mirrors.
Okay. Now, you said that you were watching all of this via your home camera system. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Does that camera system record?
That one does. I have two systems. I have a Ring camera and I have a Blink. The Blink is the one that I have a subscription for that records. My Ring camera was one of the ones that was, it was picked up and pulled off. It was actually pulled off the wall and thrown at the other one, and that's when the sync module got unplugged and the system went down.
Can that system record while you watch it, or is that something separate?
It can if you have it set the settings for it, because I had to put those new cameras on the system without changing some of the settings. Once it went to a live view, it didn't record those. I subsequently anytime I have a live view, it does show. Because there was times they would get to the minute that the cameras were set to, it would go to a live view, but it stopped recording, and I'm on the phone, get out of my house, telling them to get out of there.
Did you watch any of the recordings from that day?
Briefly, some of them, the only reason I looked at it was to send them to the MSP trooper that came to the house to investigate the stuff.
If you were to see some of that footage, would you be able to recognize it?
Of course.
I'd like to put up for authentication purposes what's been marked as people's proposed exhibit 1.
Yeah, just switch it over for me.
And I have it paused just at the beginning here. Sir, do you recognize what this video is, or what this frame is?
Yeah, that's the entryway out the one end of my home. Like I said, if you look to the right of that picture, you see a heavy boxing bag, you'll see my dumbbells, and as you come towards where you see them bent over standing, that's where that horizontal box is, just past the file cabinets.
And this recording, is it a fair and accurate recording of what you observed as to what happened that day?
Yeah.
And here's the legal chess match. Defense says he thought he had permission. Prosecution says, no, this was unauthorized entry and theft. This is classic preliminary exam strategy. Nobody's trying to win the whole case yet. They're just arguing whether there's enough evidence to move forward. Big audience question, does having a key automatically mean you have permission to enter, especially during a family dispute?
Or look down, there's an individual in the middle there, sort of at the bottom middle. Who is that individual?
That is my son.
And can you see, it looks like there's something between his legs on the ground there. Do you see what I'm indicating?
Yeah.
What is that?
Appears to be a chain of some sort that he's hooked to the back of his vehicle and went through the doorway and hooked it to that box.
And did you see what the defendant was able to do with that chain? Is that what you were referring to earlier with the lockbox and the chain?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, this is fairly heavy, and anything that one person could move around by themselves very well. So, and it was some assistance necessary. So that's what that's about.
We can take me off, please. Thank you. And you said that you had been talking with your son on the phone while this was happening. Do you have any other communication with your son about this incident?
Do you have any, are you talking about what timeline afterwards, or?
At any time, did you ever just talk with him about this incident?
I told him you crossed the line with that one, and there's consequences for this. You know, I would have never went into your home. You had no business being in my home at this time, because I told you to stay away because of the situation between us.
Did you ever exchange any text messages with the defendant?
Yeah.
And if I may approach the witness with what's been marked and enter as People's Exhibit 2.
Yes.
Let me bring you to marked as People's Exhibit 2, and I have a copy for the court as well if the court would like.
Oh, thank you.
Sir, do you know what these are?
Yeah, they're screenshots of text messages.
Who are these text messages between? Do you know?
Me and my son.
And the text messages that are outlined in the gray, who's those
Those
texts?
are the ones that Zach sent.
And so the ones in green, are those yours?
They are.
Do you know when these text messages were sent?
It says at 12:29 and 12:48. The time, I believe, is the same day that it kind of cuts off, so I can't see the date on it. I assume these are from the date that this stuff Went down in September.
And specifically drawing your attention to page 1 there, where it says, "I'll see you soon. I'm coming to get all my things." What did that mean to you?
What it says to me is that he's, I'm coming to get my things. I don't know exactly what he was speaking of. I really didn't understand what he was talking about at that point, but he has multiple things at my house. And at that time, like I explained, that box had firearms in it that I retrieved from him earlier in the year because of a incident that occurred. I took all of them out of his home and I secured them, and I told him that I would keep them for safety and that they would be secure at that point.
Do you remember what time of day the defendant entered your home?
I do not specifically know. I know I was at work.
What time do you work?
Work from 9 a.m. till roughly 5:30 p.m.
Do you remember if this happened before or after your lunch break?
It was before.
And when did you take your lunch break?
Whatever more or less whenever.
Gotcha.
I feel like it.
Okay.
I got a little bit of leeway in that.
At a couple points throughout the text messages here, it looks like the defendant is referring to a box. Do you know what box that is?
Box is the one that we described, and you see the picture of there that the chain was hooked to, was a lock box that I had.
So that's the same lock box that was taken.
Correct.
Okay. Did you give the defendant permission to take that lockbox?
No.
Did you still live at this house at the time that this offense occurred?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
One moment, please, Your Honor.
Yes.
That's the witness.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Afternoon, Mr. Doran. My name's Alex Warren Green. I represent your son in this case. Mr. Doran, I want to confirm or clarify a couple of things from your direct examination. You have in your possession today the motorcycle and those safes or lock boxes, right?
They were returned afterwards before he was arrested and brought in for these charges, and he returned them to me, and only part of the bike was returned. So some of the things that were returned, some of them are still gone.
Okay. So, and I appreciate that. Mr. Doran, on this date, the date of this incident, when the police arrived, you were wearing like a uniform, right?
Yeah.
And at this time, September 6th, 2025, were you retired from the Department of Corrections?
I am actively a security officer, armed security officer with Lewis Jewelers in Ann Arbor, 300 South Maple. And I was in uniform, correct, and I was carrying a firearm at that time.
You were wearing the uniform associated with your private security job, is that correct?
Yes, I was.
Thank you. So on the date of this incident, you were under the belief that my client entered your home using a key he had. Is that your recollection?
I don't know how he entered the house, and I told him he had a key.
Okay. And you remember telling the police you think he may have used that key to enter the home
I did.
because you had given him a key?
He had a key from years ago. I couldn't force him to give it back. Otherwise, I would have retrieved the key before. It would have been a physical altercation for me to obtain my key back.
And he had previously lived at this address. He was still receiving mail or still does receive mail at that address?
He receives one piece of mail that I've requested on numerous occasions for him to redirect, and I went through the post office after this incident to make them have a hold on it so I don't get it anymore.
So after this incident, you asked for the redirect. On the date of this incident, he was receiving mail at that home. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And there was a bedroom maintained for him at that home, correct?
Pardon me?
There was a bedroom for him at that home?
No.
Fair to say he's come in and out of that residence on a number of occasions throughout the years, right?
Right.
Okay. And at this time, you had his guns in your possession at that home, right?
I did.
When did you get those?
They were back in January when he was given a 72-hour hold And, he actually asked me to retrieve his home because he was afraid of the individuals he was hanging out with was gonna ransack his home and steal them.
During the time he was on a 72-hour hold, a psychiatric hold, and you took those guns from his residence, is that correct?
I did,
And you say you had permission,
I did,
and you told the police this, right?
I did.
And you didn't show the police that you had permission to have those guns, did you?
They didn't ask me to show them permission. They told me that was fine because they had dealt with him. The police in Milan know me because of constant contact with them because of my past career as a corrections officer.
So, okay, going to September 6th, when you were observing this, you were not at home, and you weren't at home at any time that Zachary was at the residence, were you?
Correct.
And you called and you spoke to a state trooper prior to arriving there, right?
I did.
And they arrived before you arrived. Is that your recollection?
A little bit before I did, yes.
Okay. When you got there, you were the first person to go inside the home.
I believe so.
Okay. You remember going inside the home by yourself before any officers went inside of
They
the
went
home?
in with me. Right behind me.
So you don't recall, or you're saying that you did not go inside of the residence before any officers entered the residence?
When I went to the door, they told me, please be careful, there's blood on the door. I said, okay, I see that. I'm not concerned about that at this point. I said, I'm going to go in, and they followed me, and we all walked in together, myself as well as the officers that was on the scene.
As a person who's worked in law enforcement before, you're familiar with the concept of kind of securing a scene, right?
Correct.
And doing a protective sweep of a scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you remember when the police asked you if they could do that, refusing to allow them to go inside before you to do a sweep?
I didn't refuse anything, sir. All I did when I walked in the house was tell them I had 2 dogs in there, and one of them happens to be an American Pit Bull Terrier, and I, being a one connected to law enforcement, 2 understanding the possible feelings about seeing a dog like that, I wanted to assure him that he was 1, friendly, and 2, that I would go in with him. That was the only reason that I never refused anything. They never told me to stay out.
So if the police officer were to say something to the contrary, they are not telling the truth. Is that correct?
I would believe that that's the case. I don't remember anybody telling me to stay out of the house.
Mr. Doran, on your direct examination, we watched video from your home surveillance system. You'd agree that nowhere in that video you can see my client breaking or destroying any of the property inside of the residence, right?
The video camera in its position does not allow that, correct?
And you testified about some broken mirrors. Were there 2 or more of those broken mirrors?
There was.
I'm sorry, I'll clarify my question. Were there 2 of them, or were there more than 2?
There was 3 in total. I had
3 in
4
total.
mirrors that I just put up. 3 of the 4 were broken. There are all kinds of still pictures of those mirrors available as well.
You provided those to the police?
I sure did, and they took them while they were there as well.
You didn't provide the police any photos or video clips of the condition of that property prior to September 6th, did you?
No, I was not asked for it. After I updated my home gym, I'm proud of what I've obtained as far as my weights, and I got all of this stuff. So after I straightened it up, I always take pictures of my workout area, post it to social media. So yeah, there are pictures of it in its prior state.
And with respect to this motorcycle, you're aware that my client, he does mechanical work, right?
Yeah,
And the motorcycle was broken down into a disassembled state, right?
it was.
You testified that the motorcycle was broken down, it was disassembled on this date, right?
It is a project, quite correct.
And that bike is not seen in the video we watch on direct examination, is it?
The was not in any pictures. It was in the room. And like I said, when the picture would go to live view, it stopped recording. So in the interim of that, where he was going into that room, that's when the bike become missing.
People's Exhibit 2 was a series of text messages that you provided to the police as screenshots, right? You still have those in front of you?
I do.
Okay. And Your Honor, if I could have a moment to confer with the prosecutor.
Yeah, go on. It's right.
Okay.
And that's how it appears for him?
Yes.
Okay. So, Mr. Doran, generally speaking about those text messages, the gray is text messages received from Zachary, the green is text messages sent by you, right?
Yes.
And the green ones are cut off in almost all occasions that a green message appears. It's cut off, right?
I'm not sure why that is. I think it's because of the way they were copied from the text messages as they received it. That's not intentional.
And you never provided, no one ever asked you to provide your phone for forensic extraction purposes, right?
No.
So you took these photos as still frame screenshots on your phone and just gave them to the police, right?
I did.
So when a text message is cut off, that would be because of the way that you framed the picture. Is that fair to say?
If there was anything cut off, normally what I do is take another screenshot to show the rest of the pictures. So I don't know where the other part of that is in reference to these copies that I have here. I don't know if they're available somewhere else or whatnot. I generally would make sure that you have the entire message to make myself clear.
And you're testifying that you did do that in this case. You provided the entire message to ensure that it's clear.
I can't tell you 100%, but I'm pretty sure that's how I sent them or done them. That's how I do it all the time.
And the prosecutor marked these, the ones you have in front of you, as People's 2, and then I believe there are small numbers 1, 2, 3 at the bottom. Is that how they appear to you?
Yes.
So if you could go to page 3, which is People's 2, small 3. You see the part where Zachary says, just put the key in the mailbox?
Yes.
These text messages were sent before Zachary entered the home. Is that correct?
As not having the date there in reference, I can't tell you that. All I see is the time. If it had the date of the incident, I can tell you that.
And to be clear, the time is the time in the top left of each of these still frame photographs. That is the time displayed on your phone, not necessarily the time these texts were sent or received. Is that correct? Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. The only time a date appears is on People's 2, 3, which is Wednesday, September 10th at 7:43 p.m.
Could you repeat that question, please?
I'm sorry. On the third page of People's Exhibit 2, the second picture on the bottom, there is a date and timestamp on that, right?
Yes.
Okay, but other than that, there are no dates and timestamps.
Correct.
And
To my knowledge, like I said, I still have the phone and I haven't deleted any of the stuff. You can take my phone right now and do whatever forensic exam you want to, and that's not enough time.
Your Honor, I have nothing further at this time.
Any additional questions?
Yes, Your Honor. Sir, just to clarify, was any of the property that you told the court had been damaged in this incident, was any of that damaged prior to the defendant coming into your house?
No.
Nothing further, thank you.
All right, thank you. You may step down. Thank you, sir. Any additional witnesses for the people?
None from the people.
Any witnesses for the defense?
None from the defense, Your Honor.
Do I have a motion?
Yes, Your Honor. We will move to bind over as charged in count 3 tagging along.
Response.
Object to bind over, Your Honor. With respect to count 1, the home invasion, second degree, that charge in this case is predicated upon a larceny having occurred within the residence. Your Honor, I would ask the court to consider in making the bind over decision that there has to be some evidence from which the jury could infer that Mr. Doran, my client, Mr. Doran, intended to permanently deprive his father of the property in question.
When you say permanently deprived, but that doesn't have a time on it. I mean, if he's going to deprive him of property at any point in time, that can constitute the larceny.
I understand that the court could reach that conclusion. I would ask
Well,
the
but
court
that's
to
the law,
consider,
isn't it, counsel?
Your Honor, I would ask the court to consider that the evidence, the testimony taken today established that Mr. Doran took things that belonged to him that were contained within a safe, which was returned to the owner. That's what I would ask the court to consider in this bind over decision. I would also ask the court to consider, with respect to the home invasion second, that the people's evidence that Mr. Doran did not have permission to enter that home, I think significant questions are raised when the evidence establishes that Mr. Doran has a key to the home and that there are text messages asking his father to leave a key outside, presumably before this occurred. So I would ask the court to make the inference that if Mr. Doran had a key in his possession that was given to him, that he believed that a reasonable person could believe he had permission to enter that home. What those text messages don't establish is that he didn't.
You're going to say that I'm to infer from all of this that he had permission to enter that home, hook up a chain to his truck to something in that home and drag it out of that home, and that somehow he had permission to do that?
Your Honor, I think those text messages are discussing, and what the witness testified is that there are items in that home that belong to my client that he has not retrieved, that his father testified he wants him to retrieve. And that's our position on what was going on in that video and what happened today, or at the date of the incident.
Okay. Oh, I don't really need much, but
Your Honor, I think even if, as it relates to the lockbox, even if the court didn't find a permanent intent to deprive there was still testimony about the bicycle, which to my knowledge was not returned. So there's certainly a permanent intent to deprive there. I would again ask the court to bind over.
Your Honor, may I very briefly reply?
yes.
Just to touch on count two. Count 2 is malicious destruction of personal property between 1,000 and 20,000. We did hear testimony regarding surveillance cameras and mirrors inside the home. I don't believe we heard any testimony with respect to a 2003 Saturn as reflected in the people's information. So I would just ask that that not be considered in the bind over decision.
Good. Well, I've listened to the testimony of Mr. Doran, and what is clear with reference to count 1 as to whether or not the defendant had permission to enter the home, the witness clearly has testified that he did not have permission, nor did the circumstances under which the court used the defendant in the home could lead the court to the conclusion that somehow he was there with the permission of the homeowner, his father. Further, it would seem to me that if indeed he had permission, or if I'm somehow to infer the request to leave a key as somehow, or that him having lived there, as many kids may have at some point lived in their parents' home, as constituting a constant permission. Had he had permission, it would seem to me that he could have said, "Can I get into the house and remove these items in some way?" But that's not what occurred here. And I don't think that I could make a reasonable inference that that's what he was doing. He was forcibly trying to take items, and some of those items belong to his father, namely the lockbox. When he's in the premises, and I can take Mr. Doran's estimate of the value of the property that is destroyed, he has indicated that with the mirrors, it's going to be around $1,500, but he said in excess it's going to be over $1,000, and that was the property that was destroyed. So I would specifically find that people have shown that he entered that the defendant did enter the premises, and that while present in there, did commit a larceny, in terms of removing the box that contained the weapons and ammunition. That in and of itself would be sufficient to constitute the larceny. And I, to the extent that the defense is arguing that there's a length of time, the larceny is actually complete upon the point at which he takes possession of it without the owner's permission. So the people have shown that. With regard to the malicious destruction of personal property, clearly the testimony of Mr. Duran was that there were his sink units, the cameras, the mirrors, motorcycle parts, and other things that were destroyed or otherwise injured, and that the total amount is in excess of $1,000. So the court would find that the people, indeed on count 2, have sustained their burden. So for those reasons, I would find that the people have sustained their burden, would bind the defendant over to stand trial on counts 1 and 2, with count 3, the malicious destruction of the building, following.
Your Honor, we acknowledge receipt of the information in this case, waive its reading and stand mute.
Defendant having waived formal reading, standing mute to all 3 counts, court will enter a not guilty plea. Pretrial in this matter will be
February 12th at 1:30 before Judge Slay.
February 12th, 2026, 1:30 before Judge Slay. Are there any issues with bond?
None from the people.
Bond will continue. Thank you, folks. That's some of the information on that. That is for us. Thank you, Ann. Thank you, Em. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Anna, wherever the heck you are.